Good morning and happy Sabbath. We are so happy to be with you here. And as Ziggy was mentioning in the Sabbath school, in Ziggy's class, we feel like it's a homecoming. We've come back home. As we know, quite a few people in Pakenham Church form a very church where actually I started my ministry. So we connected so well over years that where we are happy every time we meet and we come here. God's love is bringing us together. And I tell you, Casey Church decided to stay closed today. I wasn't very happy with that, but I was happy to come to Pakenham Church and be with my brothers and sisters. God's love is bringing us together. And even if, forced by the situation, we might need to stay home, but when we have the opportunity, we grab it, we come together, we sing together, we have fellowship, we praise the Lord, and this is so, so good. Let me just have a short prayer before I'll go into the topic that I've prepared for today. Father in heaven, we're here because of grace, because of your grace, because of your love, because of your care, because you've been with us, Lord, and this is where we want to be. And I pray, Father, for everyone that is present here. I pray, Lord, for everyone that is watching us online, that you'll be with us. And I pray that you'll share your blessings today. I pray that we'll leave this place with you in our hearts and in our minds. Father, as I present the topic, I pray that it won't be me, but it will be you. And I pray that this topic will touch our hearts and our minds. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, this is not many sermons have left such an impact upon my life like this sermon. So what I'm going to preach about today, it's something that actually it has been following me for quite a few years. So when I came across this topic and I started to ask myself a few questions, and then I started to dig deep and deeper and deeper to actually understand why, and then I in my personal life, in my faith, I grew so much. And I hope that it will have a similar impact upon you as well. I preached this sermon for the first time in my own church a few years ago, but it has been with me in my heart, and every time I'll have the opportunity, I'll grab that opportunity to share with God's people what I have discovered in the Bible. So, you ready? Okay, let's dive into the Bible. So, my first reference will be in Revelation chapter 15. If someone would like to read verses 1 to 4, maybe 1 to 3. And that will launch into our topic. Revelation chapter 15, 1 to 3. Thank you, Andrew.
Revelation chapter 15, verses 1 to 3 reads as follows. I saw in heaven another great and marvelous sign, 7 angels with the 7 last plagues. Last, because with them God's wrath is completed. And I saw what looked like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and standing beside the sea those who had been victorious over the beast and his image, and over the number of his name. They held harps given them by God, and sang the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb. Great and marvelous are your deeds, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are your ways, King of the ages.
Oh, you can go for verse 4 as well.
4? Okay. Yeah. Verse 4 reads, Who will not fear you, O Lord, and bring glory to your name? For you alone are holy. All nations will come and worship before you, for your righteous acts have been revealed.
Thank you very much. It's very easy to understand the scenario of this verse, of this chapter, okay? We are already in heaven. These are the people that have succeeded to go through the tribulation. And they're in that beautiful place. When they get there, they sing a song. What is this song called? The Song of Moses and the Song of the Lamb. The Song of Moses and the Song of the Lamb. So I was studying this and I told myself, what is this Song of Moses? And of course, there is a Song of Moses. We know that Moses was a prophet. He was a great leader. He was a fantastic man. He was a miracle worker. God performed many miracles through him. But actually, he was a poet. And when you open the book to Psalm 90, you'll see that Psalm 90 was written by Moses, the man of God. And we know that the book of Psalms actually is the hymnal book of the Hebrew people. So initially when Moses wrote that psalm, it had music on it. And so you can sing that. Unfortunately, we lost the music. But anyway, let's go to the Song of Moses and trying to dig a little bit deeper and to understand what is all about. Deuteronomy chapter 32. This is where we find the Song of Moses. It's a book of Deuteronomy. We understand the journey of the people of Israel is coming to an end. They have been through the 40 years of wandering through the desert, and now their journey is coming to an end. The promised land is there. And they're about to go into the promised land. And this is where the Song of Moses comes. And when we read actually chapter 31, we understand that that song was not composed by Moses. That song was given to Moses by God. Oh, well, God is a poet too. It was given by God to Moses, and yeah, it's when we look at chapter 31, verse 19. Now write down for yourself this song and teach it to the Israelites, and have them sing it, so that it may be a witness for me against them. And then it follows. It gives more instruction. So this song was composed by God. We have to be clear about it, okay? It was composed by God. It was given by Moses. Moses took the song. He learned the song. He was a very talented musician. And he taught the song the people of Israel. So in the book of Revelation, we saw that the song is called the Song of Moses. And the song... It doesn't say the Song of the Father, does it? It says the Song of the Lamb. So if I'll make one more step further, I can see here Jesus being in contact with Moses and Jesus teaching his servant this song, and then Moses taking that song and teaching the people of Israel. So it was a song that comes from Jesus to Moses, and then it was passed on to the people of Israel. So it's very important, I guess, to understand this background, just a little bit to see where the song is coming from. And when we read the book of Revelation and we see that the song is actually a very important part of what is happening in heaven, when the saints are taking up, they are in that beautiful place and they start singing the same song. So we realize that there has to be something important in that song. There has to be something important, and we have to make sure that we don't miss it. And this is where it affects my life so much, and I hope it will affect your life as well. So let's just go verse by verse. We won't go through the whole chapter, but we'll go through the probably half kind of the chapter, and we will see where the chapter leads us and what is actually the main message of this song. Verse 1, listen, O heavens, and I will speak. Hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. So in the opening, we have this word, listen. It's an appeal like, listen up. Can I have your attention? Please make note. Or in the New Testament, we have Jesus saying, truly, truly, I tell unto you. So there are different expressions where when Jesus wanted to say something that was very important and his listeners had to pay attention, he's using that expression. Okay, truly, truly, I tell you. So this is the word that actually opens up the song. Listen, pay attention, take note. This is important, what I'm going to tell you. So right from the beginning, God wants to grab our attention. And then he's using here two witnesses, heavens and earth. And we see that happening in the Bible again and again. Even Jesus is using this witness. God's witnesses can't be human. Why not? Because we are like grass. We are like the flower of the field. We are here today, and tomorrow we are gone. So God can't use us as His witness. He's using something that is lasting, and this is why He's calling us as witness these two aspects: the heavens and the earth. God doesn't change. He doesn't need to change. So his witnesses need to be there for every single generation to witness for him. And he's using heavens and earth. Now, in verse 2, let me teach, let my teaching fall like rain and my words descend like dew, like showers on new grass and like abundant rain on tender plants. What Jesus tells us is you need this. In the same way, a plant, when you put a plant in the ground, if you don't water the plant and the ground is dry, that plant will die. So Jesus tells us, actually, you need this. What I'm going to tell you, it's very important, it's vital for you. In the same way, the earth, the plants, the grass, and everything, they need the dew, they need the rain. This is how your souls need what I'm going to tell you. Verse 3, I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Oh, praise the greatness of our God. It starts with the doxology. Doxology is bringing glory to God. So the song starts from the beginning, acknowledging the name of the Lord, that God is actually the center of everything that the song was going to be all about. And it's a praise of God's greatness. And I think the people of Israel had many reasons to praise the Lord for the great deliverance, for everything that they have done, for He has done for them in this journey from Egypt to the Promised Land. Verse 4, He is the rock, His works are perfect, and all his ways are just, a faithful God who does no wrong, upright and just is he. We find this comparison in different other places of the Bible, that God is the rock. It's the most solid and lasting material of construction. And especially when we go back in that time, the Egyptians actually, they were very well skilled in working in the rock. The pyramids that have lasted thousands of years, they're made of rock. And many of the buildings actually, that they are still standing today, they are made of rock. So making that parallel that actually Jesus, that God is like a rock, is like a solid foundation. When you build on the rock, you know that your house will stand. When you use rock as the material to build your walls and to build your house, you know that your house will stand. So that illustration actually was very relevant for the people of Israel. I wonder if actually that song stayed with the people of Israel for quite a while, because Moses received the commandment, teach the people of Israel. So they were supposed to learn it, and they were supposed to repeat it to their children and teach these songs their children. And this is how we do in our family. I grew up in the church. I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist church, and growing up, we had certain songs for the family worship. And guess what? Those songs were pastored to me, and we pastored those songs to our children. So when we have family worship, we have these songs that we sing all the time. So I guess this song was meant to become part of the family worship. Part of the worship at the temple. When they had a feast, they had to sing these songs. They would become part of their repertoire in their program. So when we read some of the psalms that were written by David, we find that David is using this illustration. Like, for example, 2 Samuel 22, verse 2. I won't open there, but I'm just mentioning a few verses. He said, the Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. So that the same illustration is used by David in his Psalms. Verse 3. God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation. Verse 31, so 2 Samuel 22, verse 31. As for God, his way is perfect. So these are ideas that we find in the Song of Moses. And I thought to myself, I'm pretty sure the song has survived. And when we think of a very troubled history of the people of Israel, like when we read the book of Judges, in that period of time, in the period of the Judges, the people of Israel went like up and down, when they were victorious and they were living a good life, when they would depart from God and the Moabites or other people will come and subdue them and lose their freedom. But it looks like the song has survived for quite a few years, as David is using certain expressions from that song in his own songs. And again, in 2 Samuel 22:32, for who is God besides the Lord? And who is the rock except our God? So we see this again and again. The rock is conveying the idea of constant, trustworthy. God is solid. When you put your feet on God's promises, you know that you put your feet on something solid that doesn't move. And as well, it says here, his works are perfect. His works are perfect. When we look at the history of salvation, the plan of salvation, sometimes we struggle to understand. Sometimes we wonder, we are talking about animal sacrifices. And this week I received an email from someone and said, why so many sacrifices? Why so many? We sometimes struggle to understand certain concepts. But when we look from God's perspective, everything that he has done for humanity was perfect. Nothing could have been changed. Nothing can be changed. God has chosen for us the best way possible. Like we've been talking about the faith of the covenant. And when we look at how God has planned everything in such a way that, everyone has a chance to salvation. It doesn't matter who you are or the education that you have, how much money you have, and which country you're born in. Actually, faith is opening up the chance of salvation to everyone. We all can be saved. So from God's perspective, God has done everything that he could for us. There's nothing more, nothing else, nothing less. There's a quote in the Spirit of Prophecy where Sister Y says, if we would have known from the beginning the way the Lord will lead us, we would have chosen the same path. I don't know if you remember that passage. If we would have known from the beginning the end and the way God would lead us, actually we have chosen the same path. Even in sometimes that path had been difficult, had been painful. But when we understand the final product, we'll say, yes, Lord, yes, I want to go through that because I know the finality of my journey. So from God's perspective, every single decision that God has made for the people of Israel was perfect. Every single decision that God has made for you, for your life, from his perspective is perfect. The problem is that sometimes we don't want to follow that path, and sometimes we want to take shortcuts, and then things get complicated. Sometimes instead of going straight, we turn left, and things get changed in our lives. But from his perspective, his plans for us are perfect. Verses 5 and 6. They have acted corruptly toward him. To their shame, they are no longer his children, but a warped and crooked generation. Is this the way you repay the Lord, O foolish and unwise people? Is he not your Father, your Creator, who made you and formed you? So now we get a perspective of what happened. God is faithful. And what are we doing? What is the humanity doing? God is doing his best. God is constant. He is consistent in his plans. He never changes. He always pushes things in the right direction. And what do we do? What do we do? And we do have to recognize that this is the corrupt nature of our human being. God tries to do his best and be present in our lives and bless us. And then we choose other things. We decide to go different path. Truth hurts. Does it? Yeah, truth hurts. And sometimes when we have to face the truth that we have done something wrong or something that we shouldn't have said, we shouldn't have done, and a decision that we shouldn't have made, and truth hurts. And when we read these verses, actually it hurts. Do you feel it hurts? Okay? So God is just putting it up there and says, look, this is the truth. I have been faithful. My works have been perfect for you. I'm a faithful God. I do no wrong. I'm upright and just. But this is actually what happened. This is how the reply that I received from you. Verse 8. Actually, verse 7. Remember. No. Okay, remember the days of old. Consider the generations long past. Ask your father, and he will tell you, your elders, and they will explain to you. So God says, remember. How many times we forget actually the way God has led us in the past and the things that God has done for us. How many times we forget those things. And God says, remember. And that's the same word for remember the Sabbath, to keep it holy. So it's an appeal that we will keep that in mind, the things that God has done for us, the way God revealed himself in the past, in history, that we'll remember. And we have in the Jewish educational system that the parents had to sit down with their children to tell them the stories of deliverance, to tell them the stories of the previous generations. And we have many stories of faith. And you know what? Sometimes we fail that we don't share those stories with our children. Just to sit down with them and to say, you know what? I was in this situation in my life. And it was so hard and so difficult. I didn't know what to do. I had no option left, basically. And I trusted the Lord. And we need to pass on those experiences of faith to our children, that they will understand. And then being encouraged by those stories, they will take those stories and pass them on, have their own stories, and then pass them on from generation to generation. So sometimes we keep them for ourselves and we keep them private when actually we have to share, we have to tell other people. There's a lot to remember when it comes to the people of Israel. Like, for example, Jacob. He was a deceiver. He was running away from his brother because of what he did. And God meets him, in his journey. God meets him and gives him a promise, gives him, hope for the future. And then all that history was so amazing. So there are things that they needed to remember and to pass on those things to the next generation and the next generation. Verse 13, verse 8, when the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided all mankind, he set up boundaries for the people according to the number of the sons of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is allotted inheritance. So God is presenting himself as the God of history. He that has control over everything that is happening in the whole world. Oh, thank you. And then in more precisely, God is presenting himself as God of Israel, the God that took the people of Israel on this journey to lead them to the promised land, and he has been with them at every step of the way. Every time, for example, they didn't have, they were thirsty, God provided. Every time they were hungry, God provided. Every time there's something happening with them, God was there for them to provide for them. In the desert land, he found him in a barren and howling waste. He shielded him and cared for him. So here we have a description why and what God has done for the people of Israel. And we have here the illustration of the eagle that stirs up its nest, and God has been for them like an eagle. In verse 10, we have this expression that actually appears twice in the Bible, and here is the first time when it appears. He guarded him as the apple of his eye. As the apple of his eye. This is the supreme expression. Like, there's nothing more sensitive and more important than your eyes, okay? So just a little speck, if it will go into your eye, you'll feel it. You'll feel uncomfortable. and you feel like you can't work anymore. You have to clean your eye. You have to get rid of that little thing that is disturbing you. So God says, as the apple of his eye, I've been looking after you. I've been with you. You're so important for me. There's nothing more important than actually you. So God is developing here to make people of Israel understand why and what he has done for him. And indeed, when we look back and we see how many times Abraham failed God, how many times Isaac failed God, how many times Jacob failed God, how many times they failed God, but he was there. He was there protecting them. He was there showing them love and picking them up and helping them to continue to walk. Now, verse 13. He made him ride on the heights of the land and fed him with the fruit of the field. He nourished him with honey from the rock and with oil from the flinty crag, with curds and milk from herd and flock, with fattened lambs and goats, with choice rams of Bashan, and the finest kernels of wheat. You drank the foaming blood of the grape. So God says, I have done everything that I could. I blessed you. I gave you land and fruit and honey and oil and curds and milk and fattened lambs and goats. You name it. Everything that you needed, I provided for you. In our terms today, what would you say? I say, okay, I have a house, I have a car, I have a family. Do you have a job? Do you have food in your pantry? Do you have food in your fridge? Do you have a fridge? Okay, what else has God provided? There's, just name it. The fact that you're here, the fact that we are here, it's God's blessing. That means we woke up in the morning, we felt all right, we dressed up, we had our dinner, we came to church. So God has done everything. And there's nothing that God left it out. And the fact that, God has provided so many things is not an accident. There is no accidents. Blessings are not an accident in our lives. Okay? Blessings are not an accident. They are God's provision, is God's working behind to provide all these things from us. Verse 15. Jeshurun grew fat and kicked, filled with food. He became heavy and sleek. He abandoned the God who made him and rejected the rock, his savior. So we've seen so far gradually this song building up and talking about God and the faithfulness of God and the greatness of God and then his work for the people of Israel, what he has done, what he is doing for us day by day, minute by minute. If I wake up in the middle of the night and I want to pray, do you think Jesus is in the heavenly sanctuary interceding for us, interceding for me? And if I remember something that I have done and I need to ask for forgiveness and I need to talk and to ask, do you think God is there for us? Sometimes you pick up the phone and you want to call your electricity company or, whatever. And you say, come, ring us tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. We are not open. We are outside of our working hours. Does it happen when we want to talk to God? No, it doesn't. He is 24/7 open, ready for us to talk to him. So he builds up on this idea that he made himself available. He did everything that he could for these people, for this nation, brought them out of slavery. He was going to give them a wonderful land, a beautiful land. And then, this is a prophecy, okay? These things that God is talking here about, they didn't happen yet, but they are a prophecy. And now when we look back, we know that actually it did happen. So Jeshurun is I couldn't find exactly what it means. It's not Jacob, it's not Israel, it's not any other name. It means actually in Hebrew, it means the righteous one. The righteous one. So I don't know if God was referring him in a kind of a cynical way, just to make them understand that this was his expectation, that at that point in time, after they received everything they needed from God, they should have manifested that righteousness, but actually they failed. Actually they failed. So Jeshurun grew fat and kicked. Filled with food, he became heavy and sleek. He abandoned the God who made him and rejected the rock of his salvation. And I tell you, when I came to this verse and to understand actually what is the core message, because this is where I see the core message of the Song of Moses, that God does things for us. He is blessing us. Sometimes more than we expect. And I tell you, if I look back in my life, in my life, he indeed blessed me more than I expected. I'll talk about my wife, my children, my parents, and more than I expected. So what happened? What happens? Why does it have to happen that way? When God is taking us from that humble position, and he's blessing us, and we grow in every single way. Financially, we grow socially, we grow in knowledge, we grow. And then what happens? At some point in time that we decide to appropriate God's blessings, and to think that those blessings that we receive from God, actually, they are the product of our own wisdom. And we decide to turn the other way and to forget about God and to walk our own way. Why? And we see that actually in the Bible happening again and again. Again and again, where God... Let me give you one example that is so powerful. David. Who was David? He was a shepherd. He was looking, and he was a shepherd not looking after his own sheep. When you look after your own sheep, that means you're rich. He was looking after his father's sheep. He was just a boy, nothing else. He was a shepherd. What do you think David would have become in life if Samuel did not receive the message from God that he was the chosen one, that he had to go and anoint him? And what do you think would have happened? We wouldn't have known anything about this boy, looking after the sheep and fighting the bears and the lions. And he was a brave young man, okay? But nothing more than that. So God called him. He anointed him. He put him as a king over his people. He grew up in power. He grew up in influence. He was victorious in everything that they started to sing. The ladies started to make songs about him, how brave he was as a soldier. And then what happened? What happened? At one day, when after he built his own palace, and he was very comfortable in all those blessings that the Lord gave him, he did not have any merit. He was just a shepherd boy. And he goes out just to have a look and to admire the view, the beautiful nature surrounding Jerusalem. And what happened? In that moment, he denied all the blessings that God has given him. And he forgot, the song says, remember. Remember. So it's very important for us to acknowledge that everything that we have, and this is why it's about the song of gratitude. The song of Moses is a song of gratitude. Everything that we have, actually, they don't belong to us. They are given to us. We are just stewards. We are just stewards over God's things. And in a moment, we appropriate those things. We believe that we deserve them. We earn them because we work hard, because we had a good salary or whatever, and we deserve all these things. In the moment, we forget that we are in a very dangerous position. We are in a very dangerous position. You drive a car. When you get behind that wheel, remember, that car does not belong to you, does not belong to me. And you'll see that we'll have less road rage if everyone will think the same. To use the car the word God wants me to use that car instead of, using the car. Everything that we have. And I tell you, when I came to that understanding, there are so many things that change in my mind. The way I relate it to the things that I have. And sometimes, many times, when we pray, how do you pray for your food? Father in heaven, bless this food. And that was the first time when I realized that actually I think I was wrong. Because the food is already blessed. The prayer should be, Father, thank you for providing. When I say thank you, bless this food, is like, God, look at me. I was so good. I provided. I cook all this food. I bought all this food, and I come with this food for you to bless it. And God says, I'm sorry. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. That food was created by me and given by me to you. So I think it would be more appropriate for us to say, thank you, Lord, for providing this food for us. Thank you, Lord, for providing this car, this house, this job, these clothes, whatever we have. Thank you, Lord, for providing all these things. And in developing that attitude of gratitude. Gratitude is an attitude. It's not a feeling. It's not that something that we feel from time to time, that we should express our gratitude. When we pray in front of the church, we should express that gratitude. Actually, it's an attitude that we have in life. An attitude that we have to develop of every single moment, that everything that we are, everything that we have belongs to God, is because of God, because of the blessings that... And tell me, what happened to King Saul when he was anointed by Prophet Samuel? He was anointed to become a king, and then when they had that huge meeting with all the people of Israel for the prophet to show them the king that the Lord has chosen, where was he? He was hiding behind something. And see, where is he? Is he here? The Lord said, yeah, he's hiding there. What happened to Saul later? What happened to him? He was called to be a king by God. He was a nobody from the smallest tribe of Israel, from Benjamin. That was the tiniest tribe of Israel, and he was called by God to be a king. And then he grew in influence, he grew in power. And then what happened to him? And then you just, the list is so big. Think of King Solomon. What happened to him? And you go through the Bible and you see the same pattern happening again and again. When God calls someone from a humble position, He puts that person in a privileged position and blesses that person. And then that person is losing track where the blessings are coming from. And then they start to believe. I call this the Nebuchadnezzar's syndrome. You know, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Israel, when he went out one day, even if he was warned by Daniel, I said, look at this, Babylon, the city that I have built for my own residence, royal residence. And then that was when everything was taken away from him. And he realized what was happening. So this is basically the main message that for myself I discovered. It's like God is giving us this song to see things from His perspective. God has a big dilemma. He wants to bless us. He's not stingy. He wants to give us things. But He can't, because in the moment He will give us too many things. You know what? We'll start misusing them. We'll start thinking that we deserve them and they belong to us and we can use them the way we want. And most of the time we use God's blessings to destroy ourselves. And that's what we saw. And because of this pattern that we discovered in the Bible, do you think it can happen in your life? Do you think it can happen in my life? And this is where I connected with the book of Revelation. And I understand that those people that maintain that attitude of gratitude, that acknowledging God, that everything that we have, it comes because of His mercy and His grace, those people will be able to go through the final tribulation and be there in heaven with the Lamb. And that song becomes so important. Have we lost appreciation, for example, for the cross? When we lose that appreciation for what Jesus has done for us, when He died for us, giving us salvation, giving us His grace, when we lose that appreciation, we lost heaven. We lost heaven. No question asked. This is why the Song of Moses and the Song of the Lamb actually they tell us the basics of life, of Christian life, what we have to do, how we have to understand who we are and what we have to do with the things that we receive from God in order to be able to be there. Okay? So there's an example that Jesus is using in Matthew 12, and I'm coming closer to my end of the sermon. Matthew 12, verses 43 to 45. There's an illustration here about an evil spirit that comes out of a man. He goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. So my question is, how come the evil spirit comes out of a man? The evil spirit will never come out of a man. How come? Because there is another power coming in the life of that person. There is God's power. Only that power can kick out, can drive out an evil spirit from a person. Do you believe? Is that true? So we have this person where the Holy Spirit comes in the life of that person, and it brings forgiveness, it brings love, it cleans the house. The house is tidy now, it's clean, it looks beautiful. And then the unclean spirit it goes and finds no rest, and it comes back to see what is happening to the house. And the house is, how is it possible? How is it possible? Because in the moment the Holy Spirit comes, the Holy Spirit doesn't want to leave. The Holy Spirit wants to live with us, in us. But at some point in time, that person decided to take the matters in his own or her own hands and to do things his own way. And the Holy Spirit said, well, it looks like you don't need me in your life. And the house is empty. And the unclean spirit comes back. And the situation is worse than before. So it's the same pattern that we see again and again. In the book of Revelation, we find the Laodicean church. The Laodicean church that was rich, that had gold, and they had everything that they needed. And actually, they didn't have anything. And we know the Laodicean church indeed, and Laodicean city was very rich. And that was an illustration on spiritual terms. But again, we see the same thing where we are blessed. We received from God spiritual blessings, material blessings, and every single blessing. And then what do we do with it? What do we do with it? What do we do with the blessings that we receive from God? The only way for us is to understand that actually we have to give back. We have to show our gratitude to God. This is God's dilemma. How can I bless these people in such a way that they will not misuse the blessings that I give them? How can He give us when actually we can take those things and use them for the wrong purposes? And there's one verse that I think I've been skipping when James actually talks about the same situation of people that are praying for God's blessings, but actually the purpose is to use James 4 verse 3. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your own pleasures. So again, people that want to receive God's blessings but use them for their own purpose. The lack of gratitude on our side is actually closing the heaven for us. It's not that God is unwilling to bless us, but we are unwilling to acknowledge that the blessings come from God. And we think that what we have, it's a blessing from God. And we see that happening so many times in the Bible. I would like as a conclusion to put it out there for you, that we'll understand the message of this song. And please go home and read the song. But don't read it, just study it, because there is something important in that song, a message for us that we have to take to our hearts. That song is telling us that we need to live in a total dependence of Jesus, of God. When we acknowledge that everything that we have comes from God, that means we are totally depending on Him. And Jesus left an example, actually, when He came on this earth. He lived in a total dependence on God. Even if He could have been independent, as the Son of God, He could have, been quite independent, but He lived every single minute of His life in a total dependence of the Father. He lived every single moment in His life. He gave us an example that we have to follow His model, His example. We are asked to replicate His life in our lives. And I hope that we'll understand how important this song is, because if we don't learn it here, we might not have the opportunity to sing it there. So the learning has to start now, to learn the song of gratitude, the song of Moses and the Lamb, so that there will be a huge choir in heaven who will be singing together that the Lord has given us so much, all His grace and all His love, and we are there because of Him. We won't be there because of us. May God bless you.